What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low cost and no cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626. A new voice in Missouri politics.
The city of St. Louis is coming back, and I do see those things.
Paul Berry III.
When you are responsible for governing, you have to do what's best for the people.
Asking the tough questions nobody else will.
Yes or no question, can you get your agenda done within the resources of the city of St. Louis?
Absolutely.
A new perspective for a new day. Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. When a friend or a loved one goes to jail, you may not know where to turn next. Chuck Tully Bail Bonds will bring 30 years of bail bonds experience to help you attain your bond quickly. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't sleep till they're back on their feet. For your convenience, our family-based team can answer all of your questions. So when you need expert bail bonding, trust Chuck Tully Bail Bonds, proudly serving Missouri for 30 years. Visit chucktellybailbonds.com or call 636-789-3522.
Show Me Politics TV, City of St. Louis, mayoral candidates interviews. We're sitting down today with Antonio French, alderman in the City of St. Louis. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
Absolutely. We're going to discuss a little bit about economic development. I just sort of want to dive in right here. I'm going to give you 1 minute to express to me what you can do better than current management as far as getting the city more fiscally responsible and to develop jobs for the people in your area.
Yeah. So economic development is key to the growth of the city of St. Louis. It's key to bringing jobs and to making neighborhoods more attractive for families to move into and also to stay in, so we can retain some of the population instead of continually lose population. What we've seen for the last 15 years is most of the economic activity in the city of St. Louis has concentrated on that central corridor. That's where we've seen the majority of TIFs, tax abatements, and others incentives to stimulate growth. Meanwhile, in our neighborhoods, both in North St. Louis and South St. Louis, we haven't seen much activity. And as a consequence, we have been bleeding population. 80,000 people have moved out of the city of St. Louis over the last 15 years. We cannot sustain that. We have to start making our neighborhoods places where people want to stay and move into. That starts with economic development in areas that haven't seen it in many years. So when you look at streets like Natural Bridge, Union, Grand, Kings Highway, these are areas that are ripe for growth, where we can take buildings that are vacant now, vacant lots, and turn those into places where we have businesses and places where people can shop in their own community and places where people can work in their own neighborhoods. That would be my focus, is refocusing our city's attention and economic development resources on neighborhoods in the city of St. Louis. That will make us safer and that will create jobs.
Real quick, and you brought up the derelict buildings. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, I believe that the city of St. Louis has a very cumbersome process as far as getting those properties into private hands.
Yeah.
Now, there's always the concern that we sell a property to a guy, he does nothing with it, things don't get better. I think those could be addressed within the contract. But in my personal opinion, I think that the system's too cumbersome. I'd like to see a system where if I'm a developer, that in 1 day's time, if we're talking about a single property, if I have my insurance, I have my plans, I have everything that you need, I should be able to go in there and buy that property from the city. The issue is, and most of our mayoral candidates are aldermen or alderwomen, so this is going to be a little bit against, what the status quo is. But is it really necessary to have an alderman sign off on each and every small transaction?
No, it shouldn't be required. Let me tell you, first, the problem is not that the system is broken, is that the system was designed not to get properties back on the private rolls. The system is designed to land bank.
Right.
All right. And so over the last 25 years, what the city has been doing is assembling land. And this has been part of a strategic plan that has been designed, especially in North St. Louis, to assemble land, not to get it back on the rolls, and to do something different with these neighborhoods. That has worked to the detriment of those folks who've been living in those neighborhoods. We're not waiting for something to happen in 30 years. We want to see something happen today.
Exactly.
And so what I want to do as mayor is to make that process more streamlined, make it where the city is not the largest landowner in the city. In fact, we don't want to hold on to that land. We want to get it to private hands immediately. And that helps stimulate not only economic development, but it generates more taxes because obviously the city does not pay taxes when we own the land.
Exactly, and Antonio, first, that's my point. We just want to make sure that we're getting this land and not just in the big corporations, big developments, because it's that private person that owns it that's going to be the good taxpayer.
Yeah. I've got before I even became alderman, I've got a house on my block, and right next to my house is a vacant lot. I had to ask my predecessor if she would sign a letter that I could buy the vacant lot next to my house, and she wouldn't do it.
Right, so you understand
I
the
understand
issues.
it.
So I have your commitment that you're going to get in there and clean this up, right?
Absolutely.
Antonio French, economic development. Next up, we're going to discuss education in the city of St. Louis, things like school choice, school districts, and what is the best option to educate a kid. Back in 2 minutes.
What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low-cost and no-cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626. A new voice in Missouri politics.
City of St. Louis is coming back, and I do see those things.
Paul Berry III.
When you are responsible for governing, you have to do what's best for the people.
Asking the tough questions nobody else will.
Yes or no question, can you get your agenda done within the resources of the City of St. Louis?
Absolutely.
A new perspective for a new day. Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. When a friend or a loved one goes to jail, you may not know where to turn next. Chuck Tully Bail Bonds will bring 30 years of bail bonds experience to help you attain your bond quickly. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't sleep till they're back on their feet. For your convenience, our family-based team can answer all of your questions. So when you need expert bail bonding, trust Chuck Tully Bail Bonds, proudly serving Missouri for 30 years. Visit ChuckTullyBailBonds.com or call 636-789-3522.
Welcome back to Show Me Politics TV and our City of St. Louis mayoral candidate interview series. And back with us is Antonio French, Alderman, City of St. Louis and mayoral candidate. Hey, Antonio, I want to talk education. Now, real briefly, let me know what you've been working on North Side and, where we're going with, with some of the youth and what you've been into.
Yeah, so education is key to the city of St. Louis's future. There are two main reasons that people move out of St. Louis. Number one is crime, both real crime and the perception of crime, and the other is the quality of schools. We have to make sure that every neighborhood in the city of St. Louis has access to quality education. That's going to be a mix between public schools, public charter schools, private schools, the whole works. What we've done in the 21st Ward, I started a nonprofit a few years ago to address education issues. And what we've done is look at successful programs around the country, and really most modeled and inspired by the Harlem Children's Zone in New York City. We started North Campus because what we saw with the Harlem Children's Zone is that while it's important that what happens in the school day, the hours after school and the weekend can be just as powerful.
Idle time is the devil's workshop.
Indeed.
And what's the name of your nonprofit?
North Campus, northcampus.org. You can read more about it.
And you're over there by O'Fallon Park, correct?
O'Fallon Park, Penrose, and the College Hill neighborhoods.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. In addressing this education issue, there's the right of the individual student and the overall success of the program. Let me give you an example. The DSEG program, in my opinion, was great for that individual student. Yeah. But where the issues happen is, in order to get involved in DSEG, you had to have a parent that was going to show up back in the day, enter in a lottery, go to the meetings. Yeah. So you're taking the best parents that are concerned about their children's education. You're not only removing the kid, you're removing the support cast.
Right.
So it's a really complicated issue. So if you had to decide regarding, and every mayoral candidate's been asked this question, if you have to decide regarding the individual child and them having the ability to access other educational systems, or saying that we got to hunker down, fix this system for the long term? I know it's a difficult question, but I'd like your answer.
Well, you know, different people take different approaches to this problem. As a private individual and as you know, somebody who works with a nonprofit, we have been focused on helping the kids that we can help. That is the life raft approach that many people take. But as mayor, what you have to be focused on is fixing the system to make sure that there are good quality options for everyone, not just the lucky few. So as mayor, I'm going to be focused on fixing the systems that have prevented St. Louis Public Schools from being successful, neighborhoods from being successful, and that is going to require a mayor that can be a conduit to help facilitate some of these obvious legal and other disputes between charter schools, private schools, public schools, etc. We have to recognize that we're in an educational crisis right now. And in a crisis, it is all hands on deck. So anyone that can help, we need to make sure that we are providing the resources to. St. Louis Public Schools needs resources. They deal with some of the most troubled families and kids in our community, and they need the necessary resources to be successful. But charter schools need resources too. Many are doing great jobs. Some need improvement as well and need to be held to high standards. But as mayor, you have to be focused on making sure that we have systems in place that make sure that every kid has the opportunity at educational success in St. Louis.
Now, one of the things I want to say to you is that the city of St. Louis currently receives the most per capita to educate a student. So I believe that there's extra issues there, and I don't think that they'll only be solved by schools. And I think that your program represents that, of connecting, I say, between the after school and what's going on. But I think it's a community thing that the community as a general needs to take on. One other quick thing, when it comes to pre-K education, are you supportive?
Oh, absolutely. The sooner we can start kids on their educational track, the better the outcome is going to be.
Absolutely. Antonio French, City of St. Louis mayoral candidate, and up next we'll discuss homeless issues in the City of St. Louis and how Antonio French plans on taking on the status quo.
What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low-cost and no-cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626. A new voice in Missouri politics.
City of St. Louis is coming back, and I do see those things.
Paul Berry III.
When you are responsible for governing, you have to do what's best for the people.
Asking the tough questions nobody else will.
Yes or no question, can you get your agenda done within the resources of the City of St. Louis?
Absolutely.
A new perspective for a new day. Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. When a friend or a loved one goes to jail, you may not know where to turn next. Chuck Tully Bail Bonds will bring 30 years of bail bonds experience to help you attain your bond quickly. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't sleep till they're back on their feet. For your convenience, our family-based team can answer all of your questions. So when you need expert bail bonding, trust Chuck Tully Bail Bonds, proudly serving Missouri for 30 years. Visit ChuckTullyBailBonds.com or call 636-789-3522.
Welcome back to the City of St. Louis Mayoral interview, Show Me Politics TV. And we're back with Antonio French to discuss the homeless issue in the City of St. Louis. So Larry Rice is closed, my understanding, or they're definitely decreasing their capacity. And I need to know what's going to happen, with this homeless population. It's a major concern during this election. I believe that talking to all the mayoral candidates that you guys all have a complete passion for the homelessness. I haven't seen a lot of difference there, but I'm really interested in solutions, not just passion. So can you express to me what you're going to do day one of mayor to address the homeless issue?
First let me say that there are a lot of really good organizations and people who are working every day to address this problem. And let me also say that we have to first say that it is a solvable problem. We can provide housing and training to every person who wants it in the city of St. Louis. Now, even with the great things that are going on around this issue in the city, there are still gaps. And Larry Rice has been down at his facility for a long time. And as new property owners come down there, loft dwellers, residents, there has been friction, as you know, between the new residents and the old residents. First of all, we have to have a policy in the city of St. Louis that starts from a position of compassion. And recognize the humanity of every person. And when we start criminalizing folks who are trying to feed brothers and sisters who are homeless, that is not a policy that I can support. When we start trying to use police presence to intimidate people who are coming down to offer food and clothing to the homeless, that is not a policy I can support, and I would not do that as mayor.
So your position is that any ordinance regarding providing food or assistance to homeless, I don't support that ordinance either. So you're saying you don't either?
No, I don't support criminalizing people carrying out their Christian values of feeding the homeless. When I went down there, I went down to Larry Rice's facility just a few weeks ago. And when I saw that there were 2 police cars stationed out there, literally more police stationed in front of his facility than we've been asking for to patrol West Florissant and Natural Bridge and high crime areas, I was insulted by that. And so I think there is room for compromise between the two sides. We need to bring Larry Rice's facility up to higher standards. It is has lower standards right now than we would want or can support as a city. And but also we have to recognize that he is fulfilling a need that is not being met by other services right now. Right. So we cannot just shut him down and expect the people who he serves and has served for many years to just be okay. We have to meet that need, and it needs to start from a position of compassion.
Now, one other quick question. Are you willing to look at private sector solutions there, not only just government solutions as mayor, but you're willing to partner with the private industry, private organizations to accomplish this need, or you think it should all be dealt with by the city?
No, not at all. The city cannot do it by itself. It has to have partners, both in the nonprofit world and in the for-profit world through providing housing. And so, somebody coming to St. Louis from another place looks at the number of homeless people we have and looks at the number of vacant buildings we have in the city of St. Louis and says, why can't you figure this out? And I agree, is that we have to be able to figure out how to use maybe some federal resources to rehab some of the vacant housing and vacant buildings in our city, to possibly partner with nonprofit organizations, maybe including Larry Rice, to help provide housing and training and support services and wraparound services for those homeless families in our city.
Absolutely. Antonio French, City of St. Louis mayoral candidate. And up next, Antonio French talks criminal justice, crime, and law and order. Big issue in the city of St. Louis. See you guys in 2 minutes.
What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low-cost and no-cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626. A new voice in Missouri politics.
City of St. Louis is coming back, and I do see those things.
Paul Berry III.
When you are responsible for governing, You have to do what's best for the people.
Asking the tough questions nobody else will.
Yes or no question, can you get your agenda done within the resources of the city of St. Louis?
Absolutely.
A new perspective for a new day. Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. When a friend or a loved one goes to jail, you may not know where to turn next. Chuck Telly Bail Bonds will bring 30 years of bail bonds experience to help you attain your bond quickly. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't sleep till they're back on their feet. For your convenience, our family-based team can answer all of your questions. So when you need expert bail bonding, trust Chuck Telly Bail Bonds, proudly serving Missouri for 30 years. Visit chucktellybailbonds.com or call 636-789-3522.
Welcome back to Show Me Politics TV in our City of St. Louis Mayoral Candidates Interview Series with Antonio French. Hey, welcome back, and want to talk and dive right into criminal justice reform. One thing about both of us is that we both spent a considerable amount of time in Ferguson, and I think there's a lot of learning lessons from there, and I think that there's some things you may have learned from there that you may be applying in your own home ward and potentially for the city of St. Louis. First and foremost, I want to ask you about the potential of an assault weapons ban in the city of St. Louis. Would you support that, or are you against that?
So, Alderwoman Cruzen has introduced this bill that would outlaw certain guns in the city of St. Louis. I think that's unconstitutional. I think it's unenforceable. It is impractical to think that we are going to force someone who has legally purchased a weapon today, and then we're going to somehow take it from them or criminalize them tomorrow for ownership of it. And the fact is that, just based on population, there are more guns in St. Louis County than there are in St. Louis City. It is not just the presence of guns that lead to violence and crime. It is the presence of these situations that we allow to fester in these neighborhoods: concentrated poverty, joblessness, lack of educational opportunities. Those are the areas where we are seeing the highest rates of violence in half a decade in the city of St. Louis. It will not be just as simple as outlawing a specific kind of weapon, because guess what? The criminals are still going to have those weapons. I know this issue very well. In my neighborhood, we deal with gun violence on a daily basis. We were, in fact, able to reduce the number of homicides in our ward by 80% in the 3 years after I became alderman. It was not because we outlawed weapons. It was because we did the hard work of changing the characteristics of those blocks where drug dealers set up open shop, where there was not the kind of law enforcement that we want to have in these neighborhoods. And so that's an easy proposal, but it's not going to get us the results that we want to get.
That's very interesting. Very interesting perspective, and honestly, I didn't anticipate that. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm a gun owner, and so I don't think that it's practical, especially in the state of Missouri, for St. Louis City to be trying to outlaw guns. We live in a state, unfortunately, that seems to want to put a gun in every newborn's hand, and so that's a losing battle. But what we can do, though, is try to change the characteristics of those neighborhoods where poverty has been allowed to persist, where we don't have jobs, and where we don't have educational options for kids.
I do support your perspective that we have to address the underlying issue, and I agree with that. And I think that that's a completely on-point assessment. But I want to talk a little bit about the courts and law enforcement and this balance. So I want to sort of set the plate for you of what's going on in the city of St. Louis. Persons arrested for a felony. Throughout the state, they're required to post a certain amount of bail. There's usually a professional bail bondsman that supervises that person. The city of St. Louis, without the alderman knowing, even the mayor wasn't even aware of this, abandoned utilizing private bail bondsmen. And where the issue becomes is you only have so many cops on the streets. And every time you have a guy that doesn't show up to court, that's just running around there, these are your little tornadoes of crime where 8 cars are getting broken into. Because we've had contact with this alleged criminal. They're not showing up to court. They feel like they're going to be rearrested. So something has to give somewhere. Now, you also have the issue with public defenders. You have to have enough public defenders to represent people, so we're not putting people in jail that don't belong there. A smart justice said one time that it's better to let 99 guilty men go free than to put one innocent man in jail. So something has to change in this system. And as mayor, how are you going to show leadership, and what would you suggest as far as addressing these issues?
Sure. A couple of the issues that you mentioned are really state issues, especially regarding the number of public defenders in our state. It is definitely undermanned, and it is creating a crisis for the system. I was a big supporter of our new circuit attorney, Kim Gardner. The circuit attorney is really the gatekeeper for the criminal justice system. And so one of the problems I think we've had for years, not just in St. Louis, but in our country, is that we are letting too many people into the system who really don't need to be in the system.
Exactly.
Especially young kids for minor offenses like minor marijuana possession, which I was happy to co-sponsor legislation in the city of St. Louis that makes that a ticketable offense now, not something that's going to introduce a young person to the criminal justice system and mess up their whole lives. And so we need to relieve some of that pressure on the front end by not criminalizing every activity of youth and concentrate on violent crime and those crimes that are most deteriorating the quality of life in these neighborhoods.
Absolutely. And there you have it. Antonio French, City of St. Louis mayoral candidate, and he could end up being mayor on March 7th. Thank you for joining us for another edition of our City of St. Louis mayoral candidate interview series, and we appreciate you. Thanks.
What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low-cost and no-cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626. When a friend or a loved one goes to jail, you may not know where to turn next. Chuck Tully Bail Bonds will bring 30 years of bail bonds experience to help you attain your bond quickly. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't sleep till they're back on their feet. For your convenience, our family-based team can answer all of your questions. So when you need expert bail bonding, trust Chuck Tully Bail Bonds, proudly serving Missouri for 30 years. Visit ChuckTullyBailBonds.com or call 636-789-3522. A new voice in Missouri politics.
City of St. Louis is coming back, and I do see those things.
Paul Berry III.
When you are responsible for governing, you have to do what's best for the people.
Asking the tough questions nobody else will.
Yes or no question, can you get your agenda done within the resources of the City of St. Louis?
Absolutely.
A new perspective for a new day. Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III. What now? Your healthcare needs may be a detour, but when you choose Thrive, it won't be a dead end. Our team of medical staff are on hand to walk with you, step by step. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare, low-cost and no-cost medical services, offering pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, ultrasound services, and life skills classes. Walk-ins welcome. Thrive St. Louis, Express Women's Healthcare. Visit thrivestlouis.org or call our 24-hour helpline now, 314-773-4626.